Okay, let's do some more practice of U substitution 5.5. This is example number 1E, F, and then we'll probably do G in this video. If you look at example number 1E, it gives us an integral of e to the 5x. Now if this were just e to the x, well, then we know that the antiderivative of e to the x is just e to the x. But this isn't just e to the x, this is e to the 5x, right? A little bit more on the inside. So technically this is a chain rule. And as soon as we see that chain rule, that's probably our clue that it's going to be a U substitution. So what do you think U is going to be in this problem? Yeah, I called U 5x, which means the derivative then would be 5 dx. So let's try to U substitute. Let's take out my 5x, let's call it a U. And so then I would have an e to the u. Oops, I don't know what happened there. I would have an e to the u. But in order to have a du, I would need a 5 and a dx, and I don't have that extra 5. So I'm going to put it in there, and I'm allowed to do that as long as it's just a number, and as long as I balance it out with a 1/5 out in front. So now I have an integral of e to the u du with a 1/5 in the front. Did you get that? All right, and so we can now integrate, find the antiderivative of e to the u with respect to u. This is kind of just like saying e to the x dx. And so the antiderivative of e to the u is just itself, e to the u, with a 1/5 in front, and then don't forget your plus c in the back. Finalize it by back substituting in what you called u in the first place, and so I have a e to the 5x over 5 plus c as my final answer. Let's do example number 1. F also has some little trig in there. I don't know about you, but I noticed if I were to rewrite this, a sine of 3x squared times a cosine of 3x. That's actually a product rule. That's a chain rule with another small chain rule inside there. That's a whole bunch of different pieces that we don't have antiderivative rules for, unless we can try to use our U substitution. So let's try it. So what do you think you're going to call U in this problem? And this might be one where you try one, see if it works, and if your pieces don't match, you might need to try something different. But try one. I decided to call my u the sine of 3x. And so his derivative would be 3 cosine of 3x dx. That's a little bit of chain rule. Don't forget the derivative of your inside. That's how I got the 3 in the front. And so now I've got to plug in all of my pieces. And so I'm using my u substitution and substituting things in. When I rewrote it with my sine of 3x squared, I'm going to substitute now this in for u, so I have a u squared, and then I almost have a du over here. It just looks like it's missing that 3. So I'm going to put a 3 there as long as I balance it out with a 1/3 in the front. And so now my problem has a u squared du with a 1/3 in the front. I can use my power rule, find my antiderivative, and then back substitute in my sine of 3x. So I get a final antiderivative of sine of 3x cubed all over 9 plus c. If you tried cosine as your u, things would get a little bit messed up, and you wouldn't have all the pieces, or you'd have extra pieces, and so that'll be your clue that you might need to try a different piece. But sometimes it just takes a little bit of practice to be able to recognize what u is, and the more you see, the more you'll start to see those patterns. I want you to try G. I want you to pause the video. I want you to see what you would call U, what you think du is, and see if all your pieces match. So I want you to try this one really on your own, and then see if you got the same thing I did. I called U on this one cosine. That means the derivative is then negative sine dx. So then when I U substituted, I ended up rewriting it first as a sine of x over cosine of x cubed. Substituting in my u's then, this whole top piece turned into my du, except I needed an extra negative, so I balanced it out with a negative in the front. So my numerator turned into du. My denominator now is u cubed, and I have a negative in the front. I brought up that u cubed and made it u to the negative 3. I was then able to use my power rule and find the antiderivative by adding 1 to the exponent and dividing by that exponent. 2 negatives there make a positive. I move my u squared down to the denominator to make that exponent positive, and I back substituted, and I got 1 over 2 times cosine squared x plus c. I hope you got the same thing I did. Like I said, the more practice you do, the more patterns you'll see, and the faster it'll kind of go for you as you do it. Hang in there.